Oh my goodness. Okay. I forgot it was Good Friday. Completely forgot that it was Good Friday. And man, you know, when things like that happen, you're completely off kilter, completely off. And not only did I forget that it was Good Friday, but I thought to myself, I need a haircut. And I said that yesterday, but I thought maybe I can get this done. So a couple of things happened. One, I was so tired these past couple of days. Uh couldn't really get out of bed, but I made it and I'm here today. Like it's the reason why we weren't here yesterday. Speaking of which, oh yeah, next week. Hold up. Can I get it? Can I get in there? You like that? Black love is revolutionary. Yeah, next week we have Caleb Elijah from Lake and Prosper based in Houston, Texas. I am biased. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm biased. He'll be sharing his story about his brand and how it came about and how he gets his inspirations. That'll be next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, 6 o'clock. We're going to do it in the evening, 6 o'clock in the evening. He'll be sharing his story. So, you've seen some of my shirts. I say a great deal, but if you like these kinds of things that promote a lot of self-love and what have you, you should check him out at lakeandprosper.com. But he'll be here on Tuesday. And then next week, also, I am bringing on my dear friend, Josie Pickens. She is the better version of me. So if you've ever been in my presence and like had time to talk with me, yeah, I'm a handful. So Joe is the yin to my yang. When I say gracious and graceful and just so disgusting, she's the better version of me. She'll be here next week. We're going to talk about not being an emotional mule, which is a great conversation for a lot of Black women specifically, women in general. But we know that Black women, we have our fair share of carrying other people's baggage. So that's going to be next week. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be great. But tonight, I want to talk about this book. So I mentioned this about a week or so ago, and it's called I Can't Afford to Marry You. My friend Joe talked about this book on her radio show about a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. No, not two. It's going to be 7 years ago, because before I got married, she had a chat about this book, and I immediately went out and bought it because I thought, wow, financial infidelity. Never ever considered it, never thought about it. Like when I look at the people who get divorced, um, I know somewhere in their money can be a factor, but I never really thought like how money is a factor. But financial infidelity is one of the top reasons for divorce, after they say infidelity and what have you. So let me talk about this book really quick, and then we'll get into some things, and let us know where you're coming from, where you're tuning in. Just put a quick little spot as to what city you're vibing in from in the chat. Let us know what that is. And if you have questions, if you're in a relationship right here, right now, I want to know. I'm going to go ahead and give you this question. Do you have a shared account for all of the bills, like for your household? Um, yes or no? I'm not gonna ask why. We'll get into that, but I'm not gonna ask why. And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I trust my partner enough to even have a shared account. Well, that's a conversation too. But I can't afford to marry you. So high level of this book, this lady, Marilyn Logan, known as the Money Lady, she wrote about her relationship before she got married. She was 19 years old. She was living way beyond her means. Been there, done that. Not gonna lie, been there, done that. And it was right before her wedding that her fiance asked to see her finances. And when he saw her finances, he was like, I can't afford to marry you, and called off the wedding. Now, when I was reading this, I thought to myself, oh, oh my, like I've seen other reasons to not get married, never considered the fact that, as he put it, she was a financial liability. I never saw that as a reason to not get married. So I thought, whoa, now they did get married. Okay. Marilyn married her Prince Charming, right? They did that. He actually gave her a check and paid off all of her debt. She was, when I say living way beyond her means, we can see it now. I mean, we've seen it for a while where people are, doing the most because it's what they see in the magazines and on social media and on TV and radio. And they want to floss and wear little chains and whatnot, but can't afford to do it. And for a while, she was able to hide it. But, when they got married, he was like, I need to see what's going on. Like, what are you coming to the table with? So he gave her a check, paid off the money, but she felt less than because she never got over the idea of being his financial liability. So we got some folks in the house, but before we keep going, hello to Spencer. I know you're down in Atlanta. Hello to you. And I see some kin folks in the building. My brothers, as a matter of fact. We're talking about money and relationships. And so the question on the books is for those who are in a relationship of any kind, right? Do you have a joint account to pay for all of the household needs? We're not going to ask why you do or don't, but if you do, right? And it's just one of those things where people often talk about not sharing an account with your spouse. And like I said, I'm going to get into that. But in this situation, this couple, they did get married. He paid for all of her debt, cleared her debt, but she felt like there was this burden over her, right? Because you can't unring the bell. If you tell your soon-to-be wife or husband you are a financial liability, it's kind of hard to unhear that. So she got a couple of jobs, couple of jobs. She moonlighted everything so she could pay him back. And she was more than happy to pay him all of his money back and told him, I am no longer a financial liability. I want to be a partner in this relationship. And I thought to myself, okay. Well, we're getting some comments on the joint accounts. We'll get to that. Go ahead and put in the chat why you believe it's best to have a separate account. I'm seeing the thoughts here. Share your thoughts. But she paid him back and they were living a good life, right? And then the worst happened. There was an accident on his job and he died. Hate to say that. So a new issue came up for her, and that was she had no idea how the household was run. Now, my brothers and I know this situation very well. My mother was in this boat just last year. And I remember the day in August, we came home from the hospital and the look of fear on my mother's face, realizing that she's never had to deal with the household. She's had to deal with insurance, home insurance, light bill, gas bill. She's done nothing for years. I have never seen her so afraid of what was about to happen that, man, it literally is, well, it still touches me. It still touches me. But it touched me like we had to assure her that it was going to be okay. So the second issue that this lady had was not only did she not take care of her finances before she got into a relationship, but she had never taken care of the household at all. She had no clue where the paperwork was, nothing. And there's nothing worse than your spouse going and you were like, now what? Right? So she had these things on her and it was a lot. Now, I'm going to get to the part of the discussion, right? Let's talk about divorce in the US and just some of the reasons. Now, I checked it. Money is on the list for reasons for divorce. As the crowd is saying, real quick, the question was, should you have a separate account? Do you have a joint account right now, right? We've got, it's better to keep them separate. Okay. We have mine, theirs, and ours. I like it. We also have, you come together as a team on the bills, but once that's been paid is your money. All right. All right. We also have, you keep it separate because you never know what can happen. All right. Okay. Because she's not good with money. Oh, okay. I love all of that. Now, let me give you some of my own backgrounds, right? Our father, he did, I would say he did fairly well with giving us some basics of taking care of money. There were some things he didn't know about. Like his whole idea was have one credit card, that's it. But he didn't say why, right? He didn't discuss what an APR was and then like that, right? He always said have cash on you and don't put all your cash in one place. He did teach us that. And when he passed, that man had money all over Houston, Texas. God bless him. So he did what he said he was going to do. But watching some of the social media and things, I remember the very first season of The Real Housewives. There was a lady, can't think of her name, but she was served with papers for the house foreclosure. Her husband, that they were still married, did not pay the mortgage and foreclosed on the house. And so I remember thinking to myself, if I ever got married, I would not be in the place where I didn't know if the bills were paid or not. That would never happen to me. Would not let it happen. I feel like you should be aware of those things. So when I got with my husband, before we got married, I made sure we had a conversation about how much debt he was bringing into this marriage. I had to know because I never asked him about his salary. In fact, I didn't learn about his salary until the very first year we filed our taxes together. I never asked him. I never I never thought to ask. Cuz I'm not even sure if it matters how much money he made. I don't think it mattered to me. And I know that sounds bizarre, but I don't think that part mattered. Like I wasn't worried about his money, but I was worried about because of this book and other things how he handled money. So some of the reasons why people get divorced, right? Um, mismatched financial priorities. That is one, right? You can have an unexpected major event, and a lot of Americans are just one major event from the poverty line. So keep that in mind, right? And then the other one is discovering that your partner has a secret spending habit, which is that financial infidelity. That here you are, I'm thinking things are good, you've paid the bills, and then next thing I know, we're getting all kinds of notices because you've got these secret credit cards and things, and like it's and we hear about it all the time. Like we hear about it all the time how there are these other things going on that you know about your spouse. So, we had a wine run and I was like, we gonna have this conversation. I said, look, how much debt are you bringing into this relationship? Like, I need to know. Like, I know where my debt stood. I know I had a car loan. I had a little bit of student loan left. And then like my credit card debt was like at, I want to say 8,000 because I'm skittish. I have been homeless once in my life. I didn't want to go back there again. So to get myself out of that boat, then I became a little ultra, you know, a little ultra saving. Didn't want to go back there. So I was reducing debt in all the places, all the places. So I want to make sure that whoever I was hooking up with and getting married to had the same financial mindset. We were on the same page. Now, he had more than me, but the good thing is he also had a plan, right? So when we sat down and discussed it, we made a plan for our finances. My husband was living the life of auto pay. And when I mean auto pay, I mean he didn't even check to renew his lighting bill. Like his light bill was at market value, which is ridiculous if you know anything about getting like a contract for your lights. He was paying market value. So I came along and I was like, we need to have a budget. He likes to eat out. I believe in leftovers. I believe in cooking a meal and eating on that meal. It could be 5 days, but I'm gonna eat that meal. You know, I don't mind having Frito pie all week. I could do my casserole, spaghetti, chicken and dumplings, beans and rice, and a little cornbread and fried chicken. I will do that. But I believe in having a budget and not just, doing whatever. Uh, hit the like button. so, so, if depending where you come from, there are people who lived like me, right? And I didn't even know that we were on a government assistance. I didn't know until I got to like high school. I know we had the block of cheese that didn't melt, and I didn't think it was anything different because our parents didn't tell us about that. But it was only until I got into high school that they joked about that government cheese. And I thought, cheese, I forget where I am. We were on assistance? What? So, your history, your life history can follow you, right? So my husband, he had the same kind of history, but he enjoyed eating out. So his idea of, getting dinner is to go order something. Me, I'm going to the grocery store. But we still meet in the middle. Now, let me talk about when we got together creating this budget. We also created a joint account. So there is one account where we put all the money in to take care of all the bills. There is that one account. And then we DoorDash all day. Ooh, these new age people, hey, I'll come back to that one. But then we have our separate accounts. Now we both have separate accounts for our own money. So once we put in, well, okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, you can cook. So I'm not going to knock on you, although those DoorDash fees add up. I will say that. So we have the joint account for the household. And then we have our own account that if we want to buy whatever we want to buy, we buy it. There isn't this, well, maybe I need to ask so and so. And maybe, now keep in mind, we had a conversation when we started dating about some things. Like I want to say date 3, he was asking me, "Do you want kids? Yes or no?" Because, if you don't want children, you should go ahead and have that discussion up front really early before you get deep into a relationship, right? And so, like I said, he popped the question, and then it became, how do we live together? Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Do you cook? Do you not cook? And he can't cook. um, I'm not gonna lie, his favorite dish, I'm not a fan of. I had to tell him, like, bro, I'm not a fan of your dish. So can we never cook that again? And it was all with love. It was all with love. You know what I'm saying? But I don't mind the fact that he can cook for me. I'd rather that he just stay out of the kitchen sometimes. So, but I love him dearly. But we had a lot of conversations about where we want to go in our financial future, right? We are semi empty nesters. We've got the grandkids. And so you start thinking, what do you want to do? I came into the relationship with one, two, three, 4 rabbits, four by accident, mind you, by accident, 4 rabbits and 2 dogs. But we both decided we really want to travel, and you cannot travel with all these animals. Like it was just hard to feed them, feed us, find a sitter. So we adopted out the lion heads, and then family friends took the dogs. But we had discussions, right? And if you have pets, they are another mouth to feed. That's not like, oh, it's a pet. It's like, no, you have doctor bills and food bills and toy bills, all the bills. If you have any kind of pet, that's money. It's another mouth to feed there. So when we talked about where we saw ourselves financially and what we want to do in the future, travel, see the grandkid, at that point was one, now we have two, then you start thinking about what needs to change, like how we spend the money. Where should we not spend extra dollars and things? Like what cars are paid off, all that stuff. But we talk on a consistent basis about how we do our finances. Like it's not just off the cuff. Now, he does spend more than me. Like I said, I'm more of a frugal person. He is more of a, like in his head, sneakers should not cost more than $20. I don't know where he's shopping to find $20 sneakers. Well, he's probably going on Amazon with his luck. I kid you not, because yeah, it's a very good chance that's where he's getting some of these things. And I can share stories of when those shoes that he found wherever have failed him while on a trip. If he had just bought some quality sneakers, then he wouldn't be in that boat. Like me, I will spend a large amount on one item, but it will last me for like 20, 15 years. So I'm just don't put, okay. So first of all, let me just say this. My husband, I love my husband. He's not on blast. Okay. But we are talking about city trends. He probably did go to city trends. We are talking about The one thing that really does impact relationships, and it's money, right? I don't know about anybody's marriage, not a marriage counselor, but I will say this personally, sometimes I have to wonder if people in a relationship, before or after, if they talk enough about things that can have a big impact on their relationship. Money is one of them. So I was reading, doing some studying. Couples who have more than $50,000 in debt have a lot of financial arguments, and those arguments tend to lead to divorce. We're just going to say because it creates distress. It creates a lot of stress. And it becomes even more so if you are living above your means, because now you're figuring out, how do we make these ends meet? Right? Now, I have been there where I have, ugh, I was underemployed, right? And you think to yourself, well, if I can work two part-time jobs, it'll be one full-time job. Two part-time jobs don't make a full-time job. And I don't care how I tried those ends, it was like two magnets. And they just wouldn't, they just wouldn't go together. It is stressful. So that's just one person feeling stressed. Now you have two in the household trying to figure out, how do we get ourselves out of this hole? Now, again, my parents, I want to applaud them for doing fairly well on keeping us in the dark about their financial situation, because we lived as kids. Now, as I got older, I understood some things. Prime example, Christmas. We had holidays where there were gifts under the tree, right? And then there were some holidays that they just handed out gifts out of the like hall closet, right? There's like, here's your gift, here's yours. You're like, well, they're not even wrapped. They're not even wrapped, right? Or we got the right after Christmas, I'm gonna get you guys something nice, right? That was us. Now, my parents did what they needed to do. Sometimes they had, sometimes they didn't have, but they stuck together. So let me go there real quick. I want to wrap this up as we talk about communication and what really can, tear couples apart even before you get married. Now, tell me real quick in the chat if you recall a time, I think like early 2000s, the early 2000s. There were people that when they would go on dates, they were asking their date about their credit score. If you remember those days, let me know. Now, hey, I was in New York. I remember those days. People were clear about doing background checks on their dates before they went on date, and they were looking at the credit score. People were really looking at this because you want to find someone who is, you know, on the same page, or as we should say, not a financial liability. They went there. So if you were one of those, or you recall those days of checking out if someone had a good credit score or not, let me know in the chat. But I mean, hey, for where we are right now, I think people should still look. So a couple of things about how to avoid going to divorce over money. Now, there's other reasons, you got your infidelity and all that whatnot. I can't help you there. Tonight is all about the money because tax time is coming up. I think they do like what, 17th, 18th taxes to do, something like that. So it's coming up. But we know that money is an area that we don't like to talk about. And I want to say, perhaps in 2 weeks, we'll talk about the money. I don't know how many of you have a safe circle where you have friends who know what your credit score is and also know how much debt you have. I've got two. I got two people that I talk to all the time who's not my husband, that I am telling them where I am with my credit score, my credit plan, and where I hope to go in terms of finances, right? Because people in the US, we love to hide stuff. We don't want to talk about sex. We don't want to talk about racism. We don't want to talk about the money, but everybody should know everything, right? Don't you know? You should. Yeah. Okay. So I'll go back. Okay. Never mind. All right. So let's go. He said, now we're all broke. Let's just live and have fun. I appreciate that. I do. Because some of you, some of us are faking the funk that came up with the Joneses and, living this life. And yeah, we're not going to talk about how, reality TV has played a little bit. It was one thing to have magazines, Life of the Rich and Famous. Remember that? No, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Remember that? MTV Cribs and all that whatnot. And now we have things like The Housewives, where people are clearly leasing and renting their mansion and their Bentleys. Like for what? But I digress. Okay, so five things that you can do in your relationship today if money is kind of funny for you. And if you don't talk about money with your partner today, right here, you should, right? You should. Number one, discuss your financial expectations. If you're a person who spends a lot, let your partner know I spend a lot. I spend beyond my means. And I just feel like I'll work it off eventually. If that's not who you're dating, you might get dropped. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, would I ever do it? I don't know. Okay, take it back. I might know that. I don't believe I could be with somebody who was like a heavy spender. That would be a no. Okay, I'll admit it. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So we don't have the same financial expectations, then we would not be a great pair, right? Because that's not how I thrive. Um, Plan your financial future together. I know where my husband is going, right? I know where I'm going. He knows where we're going together. We don't have two separate plans here. We have one plan for the Jacks. We have one plan. And together we are working on that plan. You can have your separate accounts, but just make sure for the household, you guys are on the same path together. Make sure that. Make a budget, stick to it. Gwendolyn made the budget for this household. That's not it's not what he does, and he's clear. It's not what he does. When people come to our house to sell us stuff, be it yard service or those darn solar panels, he's like, "You need to talk to her. I know all the numbers and I know what's going down. And if you give me any kind of paperwork, I'm going to read every single sentence. And if I don't like what I see, you can go about your business because I'm not doing it." So, yeah, have a budget, stick to the budget. We stick to our budget. Then, if you have financial problems, you face those together. Living a freelance life, we have ups and downs. I have had 6 consultations this week. It is Friday. I have signed zero contracts. Some days is in my favor, some days is not. And as I was talking to my dear friend Danny the other night, I cannot afford to do senior photos for $200. Like, I can't do it. So I'll do all the talking. And sometimes I sign a contract and sometimes I don't. But my husband is aware of that. And we talk about my business and where we're going and what the state is, like bi-weekly. So yeah, but if you have any kind of financial problem, you do that together. Now, if you're not married, it doesn't matter. Even if you're like a common law, you have a partner, you're in this household together. The deal is you're a team. You got to approach these problems as a team. It is not a you're on your own. That will never last. And if you ever do get married, that's in the vows. Sickness, health, good times, bad times, rich, poor. And we have seen with my parents the rich days, and I have seen those poor days, right? I have seen my parents live their vows, which gives me like so much hope. So it can be done. Is it work? You damn right it's work. If it was easy, everybody would do it and stay married, stay together. Say with any human, if it was easy, right? But yeah, it can be hard. Lastly, it is remember those vows. Remember, even if you're not married, because I want to make sure I'm clear here, you don't have to be married, right? You don't have to be married, but think about what brought you together. It's teamwork. It's teamwork. So you have to face whatever problem you have, be it health, be it financial. The economy's looking kind of wonky. Every day somebody's getting laid off, right? And it's those kinds of moments where your character and your what's the right word? Your relationship character. It shows up. You're not going to have all great days, but everybody's good when everybody's good. But who you are really shows up when the times get hard. You know what I'm saying? So do it together. Do it together. All right. So let me see here. Oh, we got all these comments. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me go back. Let me go back. Jonathan says communication is key. That it is. People don't talk enough. Now I don't know. I mean, I had a job. Shit, I still have a job. You talk all day, but I still find the time when the husband comes home, we sit and talk for like 20 minutes. Just 20 minutes. How was your day? What you got going on? And then we get into like all of our other stuff, like Mandalorian, Wu-Tang Clan, that stuff, right? Playing some video games. But you got to have a conversation. Yeah, talk. Talk to your customer, talk to your spouse, talk to them. And then he says you have to know their situation before you get married, right? If you love someone, it's for better or worse. Yeah, that it is. And I do believe, I mean, I don't know. I have to wonder if some people live this sort of fake facade life, right? Like everything is so pretty, which goes back to that book where this guy, loved this woman. Now he married her. He loved her. She was flossing, and he's like, "Hey, I want to see your finances." And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I don't think we can do this because, yeah, you have to know before you go in what you're getting into." So, like I said, I sat down with my husband in between a glass of wine and said, "How much debt are you bringing to this relationship? Like, how much are you bringing?" So together, we got this, and we can get ourselves out. But how much are you bringing? Just want to know, right? It's good to ask. That's a great one. That's a great one. Yes, Danny, reality TV has messed it all up. Man, people believe in this stuff. They believe that what was out there is real. I don't understand the whole point of renting a mansion. Leasing a car is one thing, but does it have to be a Bentley? Does it have to be a Phantom? You could just lease like a regular something and be good and live within your means. But that I think too is also part of, and it could be like all societies, but I know for American society, we have a thing for pretending to be more than what we are. Don't know where that came from. I mean, I've been around here for a few years. Um, was I there? I most certainly was. I remember when I was younger and I had my Neiman Marcus card and I was working across the street in Houston, and I would get all dressed up and go to my Neiman Marcus fashion show, spending money I did not have, and then I got on the Metro bus and went home. You know what I'm saying? So been there, done that, and then you learn soon after that it's highly overrated and it's not worth it. It's just that pain is not worth it. He also says, Jonathan says, become financially disciplined, identify wants versus needs. Oh, look at you dropping gems. Okay, I see you. That's what I'm talking about. Because the good Lord knows I would like to have a lot of things. I don't need it. Yeah, it's like, nope, I don't need it. All I need now is wine in my wine fridge. Is all I need right now. Just need some wine. He said, if I budget, I don't have to. What is it? If I budget, I don't have to. I don't get it. Oh, okay. Oh, if I budget, I don't have it. I don't get it. Yes, that's how I live. It's how my business lives. I have an operating expense account for the business. If the money's not in there, then we don't get to invest in new software, new technologies, new products. It's just hey, it's just not there. You have to do that. It also says it's good to have a partner that supports you. Yes. And then stop watching other people's lives and comparing them to yours. Stay in your lane. Oh, look at you. Somebody in here finna testify, and the church will say amen. Thank you, sir, for putting that. Yes, wants versus needs is important. Many people don't understand the difference. That's what I'm talking about. A lot of us, I've said often, are blessed beyond measure. We have a place to live, food in the fridge, on the table, gas in the car, reliable transportation, clothes on our back, a place to take a bath, take a shower. A lot of us have that. And before I wrap this up, literally, I remember, I was like, I don't understand how I was second in my high school class, voted most intelligent, most likely to succeed, living a great life in New York City. I come back to Texas and now I have no place to live. I am underemployed. I would call my mother on my lunch break and say, Mother, is there anybody you know in this area who I can stay with tonight? There's nothing to make you realize wants versus needs than being kicked in your face and being like brought down, right? Been there, did that. So then you learn, you know what? All I need right now, family, friends, a place to sleep at night, food in my gut, gas in my car. That's it. And it's going to be fine. It'll be fine. So great. I mean, this is like, great stuff. Yeah, well, technically, you know what? I'm not even going to acknowledge that last comment because we don't want to stir up any dust. But I would tell you this, as we're discussing these things, this new YouTube show that I'm putting together called Girl, Listen. It is that like we have all these things that's going on outside and nobody talks about it. We talk about it in like circles, secret circles. Prime example. One of the things people often say is if you have to ask what the price is, you can't afford it. That's a lie. And that's ridiculous. We're going to talk about that too. You should ask before you buy anything, what are you getting? But again, a different day, a different time. Next week, we're going to talk about not being someone's emotional mule. Okay. And I know people have talked about these toxic workplaces, people with the micro and macro aggressions, people who say, oh my God, you're so aggressive. You're so intimidating. You make me feel, man. Oh, next week is going to be great. I'm going to have my friend Joe, who has written about this topic. We're going to have a great time discussing setting the boundaries for people, letting them know what is and isn't acceptable, and sticking to it. Because trust, if you got problems, you need to find a therapist. It's not going to be this one. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be this one. All right. So thank you all for tuning in for this very first one. This book, oh my goodness, hold on. This book, I Can't Afford to Marry You, is by Marilyn Logan. She does have in the back of this book a great set of tips for money mantras, right? Check your credit score. You know, you get those 3 reports every year. Make sure that you increase your financial credit IQ, right? And then your 401k, your IRA, get a financial wellness exam done. So take care of yourself, take care of your financial self. Have a conversation. I'm going to see you guys next week. Yes. Good night.